AMD Ryzen 5 1600AF Review. YD 1600 Buffbox, Incredible Budget CPU. 95 TechSpot Score. AMD's first-gen Ryzen chips continued to sell as budget alternatives to the newer generations, and the Ryzen 5 2600-2600 products in particular are very attractive for budget builds. Today we're checking out the 12nm version of the Ryzen 5 1600 that, despite the name, is a new CPU that's only been on the market for a few months. To quickly recap, the Ryzen 5 1600 was released in April 2017 for $220, based on the original 14nm Zen architecture. It's a 6-core, 12-thread part clocked at 3.2 GHz for the base, with an all-core boost clock of 3.4 GHz and cooled using the Wraith Spire. About a year later, AMD replaced it with the Ryzen 5 2600 at $200. It was also a 6-core processor, but featuring updated 12nm Zen Plus cores. It ran at a base clock of 3.4 GHz with an all-core of 3.7 GHz. Because the more refined process was more efficient, AMD downgraded the cooler to the Wraith Stealth. After one more year, we got the current generation's Zen 2 processors. Here the replacement was the Ryzen 5 3600, another, incredibly good, $200 part. But what is this Ryzen 5 1600AF? Late last year a mysterious Ryzen 5 1600 refresh made it to market. Bizarrely, AMD released a really cheap version of the Ryzen 5 2600, but just called it the Ryzen 5 1600. Known as the Ryzen 5 1600AF because of the box identification, it's very different to the original Ryzen 5 1600A model. Forget about the name, this is a second-gen Ryzen part. Essentially it's an R5 2600 with a slight decrease in clock speed. Apparently AMD didn't have enough 14nm wafers available to keep producing the R5 1600, so they simply shifted it to the 12nm process, and now they're making a version of the R5 2600 that they call the R5 1600. At this point you may be asking yourself, why do I care that AMD is making new products and selling them under old names? Seems counterproductive, but the reason you should care is price. These underclocked Ryzen 5 2600 CPUs cost a mere $85. That's a Zen Plus 6-core, 12-thread part for just $85 brand new. The original 14nm Ryzen 5 1600 was a great deal at a little over $100, and the Ryzen 5 2600 was killer at $120, but the Ryzen 5 1600AF blows them both out of the water at just $85. That is, as long as you can get it. The CPU seems to be readily available in the United States, but it's not sold everywhere. Before we get into the blue bar graphs, here's a look at how the 1600AF clocks compared to the original 1600A model, as well as the 2600, running a heavy blender workload. The original 1600 operates at 3.4 GHz, the new AF model maintained 3.7 GHz, and the 2600 runs at 3.8 GHz. From this test alone, it would appear like the 1600AF could be up to 3% slower than the 2600 out of the box, but it's way cheaper. For more on this story, visit the news article link.